welcome to the Other Part podcast where we explore differences through conversation. Just a reminder that this program is not meant for minors and that we're just having a conversation here. We're not telling you how to live your life as only you can make that decision. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the education system in Jamaica. We want to really discuss, is the education system in Jamaica preparing the youths to actually become functioning adults in society today? Joining me in this conversation, I have Ted. Ted, could you go ahead and give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Hi, I'm Ted. I'm 22 years old. I am a psychology major, love to play games, and I'm just a lover of life, and I like to talk to people.
All right, awesome. Thanks for that. All right, so Ted will be representing this conversation on the side of being a part of the Gen Z, and I'll be representing the Millennials. Okay, get started. All right, I'd like to. So what I'd like to do is I'd like us to go
Mm-hmm.
through the listing of the CXC subjects, and I would like
Mm-hmm.
to compare what your class was like for those subjects that you did and versus mine. Okay.
Okay.
Back in my day, we didn't have no additional maths or add maths. That's definitely new. Was that in your ear too?
Well, AdMats is CAPE. So looking at
Oh,
this
okay.
list, I think four of these subjects are for CAPE. So these are optional. You don't have to do them.
Okay.
These are if you want.
All right, I get that. Because I thought that
I was in
maths
that.
was. I get that because I thought that maths was actually a university course. But yeah. All right.
But there's some schools, but there's some, I won't lie, there's some high schools that do teach AdMats in, this PSEC years. So, from what I've heard, but usually you do that in Cape.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one. Agricultural science. Agricultural science, it's one of those subjects that you had the option to do once you enter senior high. It was mandatory for junior high to do all the subjects, and then in senior high you can choose if you actually want to do that. I believe they called it what? Resource technology when they were classifying it. So
Mm-hmm.
was it similar for you?
Well, agri, yeah, we had to learn it in grade 9, and then, as you said, once you reach upper school, senior school, you can choose to do it. So in senior school, so in lower school, we learned about just theory stuff like types of land, tools, as agriculture, history, and so on. And from what I did, even though I didn't do it in upper school, my, we didn't know people who did do it, and they told me that they had to kill chicken, they had
Yeah.
to plant the things on the school farm. So I think agriculture still lives up to its name in preparing students who want to do it in like those basic skills. However, when I speak with my mom, and when she tells me that, well, she's from the country, and she tells me that all of them had to do it, and they had to do everything: kill chicken, kill the goats, plant this, plant that. They had to do everything. So that was not a choice; that was mandatory, which does, that makes sense because within their context of that time, the 80s, the 70s, jobs like what we have now was not a thing. Agriculture was still the it thing for like the average Jamaican, especially the average Jamaican from the rural um, countries, the rural areas, rather.
Okay, I definitely see that. But given what's happening now with the pandemic and the many conspiracy theories about what's going to happen, where essentially they're like, oh, it's literally going to be like, you're preparing for the end of the world, where we're going to go back to the basics. So aren't millennials and Gen Z and those who are just born, all of them are going to be essentially doomed? Because I don't know how to pluck no chicken. And that was one of the reasons why I did not choose agricultural science. I'm not sticking my hand in no raw chicken to take out no chicken guts. I'm not plucking no feathers either. Not doing it. That's what the supermarket is for, and that's what Mitzi down the road is for. She have a little tuck shop. She does that and she takes care of it for me. But as an adult, looking back, I wish that is something that I actually knew how to do to become, self sufficient, especially if these conspiracy theories happen to come true, where I literally going to have to plant my own corn in somewhere in my garden and be self reliant.
Yes, 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 yes. It sounds crazy where like, but you don't know how to like kill a chicken, and then you're like, but why would I need to? There's a supermarket, blah blah blah. But as we saw with the pandemic, everywhere was closing. Only supermarkets was opening on the essential stuff, right? And whereas people who have chicken a yard, they were okay. They could, have meals to eat for a longer period of time than us who had to rush to go up high low and go pack up this, pack up that. But yeah, I think certain stuff everyone should learn because chicken is one of the staples of the human diet. We all eat, well, not all of us eat it, but you know, all of us, it is one of those options on the diet, and therefore at least knowing how to, even if you don't know how to kill it, at least know how to prepare it, which is where home economics comes in, which teaches you about the home, how to clean certain aspects of the home, how to cook, how to yeah, I remember learning how to use the needle and the thread and to stitch up the pants, stitch up my shirt, and those little things. Those are basic skills. So even if we may not have a apocalypse, which boy I feel like say we will. I mean, come on. These are skills that I do believe that every human being should learn. If
Okay.
if at least once, I don't know.
Okay. And another sub question in regards to agricultural science. Do you believe that because we are in the era of technology, we are raising a society of snobs? Because listen to the way how I responded about plucking chicken. It sounds very uptown, very classist, and make it sound like it's
Yes.
overall demeaning, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially how,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, how we view farm work. We see it as beneath us.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
is this age of technology responsible for that?
Yes. Yes. Technology has made things much easier, and thus, why do I have to do it? You know? But there's also more things behind that as well, which is also, at least for us in Jamaica, because I know a lot of people who, well, not a lot, I know some people who they actually would not mind to farm, but they view the work as hard and unrewarding because of how hard it is and how much issues are surrounding it, right? For example, the droughts, the hurricanes, how expensive land can be. You know, it's a lot of work that goes into farming. And some people like those like grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle who have a piece of land who actually would not mind to farm, but they just believe that sure, if I just find someone else who would purchase the land, they can make, you know, that money more that way than for them to farm themselves. So yes, I believe technology has kind of made us made all of us, kind of a snob, but as well, I think for our context, there's more behind it as well.
All right. So what? All right. So biology class. Let's see. The sciences class for me. Yeah, they were typical science class where you're either learning about plants, the human body, and everything else science based. I don't really have
Mm-hmm.
much to say about that because I think it was in my science class that they gave us some information on I'm trying to remember the proper terminology. First aid, first aid stuff as
Mm-hmm.
to like when you break a
Oh.
certain type of the bone, how you're actually supposed to splint it together versus just putting two sturdy pieces wearable.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I never learned that. I never learned that.
So what do
I
you
never learned.
what do you remember from your biology class?
So I did bio in grade 9. Before that, it was just integrated science. When we did bio, you learn the usual stuff, the body, what makes it up, you know, plants, animals, those stuff. We didn't learn no first aid. Mm, didn't learn that.
Well, I wouldn't want to say learn it because it was like lesson just sidetracked into it, so it wasn't necessarily a part of
Mm-hmm.
the lesson. But since you were
No,
talking about
that's
that
even
body
that.
part that day, it just tied in.
Yeah, not no, never got that at my school.
Alright. Let's move on. Did you do Caribbean history?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so my take on Caribbean history is that you remember that big brown book? That big everlasting brown book
Um,
where it's filled with,
no,
hmm, I don't remember what it's called.
no. We
But
never
there,
use a brown book. We use a green book.
for Caribbean
Ours was
history,
green.
okay then, I remember this big brown book, whether you want to call it yellow, brown, or the various colors in between. There are various pictures on it. It was, and it's quite a delicate book, and it doesn't take much for the
Mm-hmm.
pages to fall out. I remember quite feeling disappointed with that course because Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
history, it felt to me like all I learned was about Arawaks, Caribs, and how they used to eat turtles. And Christopher Columbus came to
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, and then that's literally about all that I remember. Because the other information about Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
history was related to all other Caribbean nations. It had so little information about
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica. So,
Oh.
so let's put it this way. I learned more about my Jamaican heritage from Miss
Mm-hmm.
Lou from compared to my high school Caribbean history
Oh.
course, which only told you the bare minimum about your own country. So it
Right.
just feels so disappointing because, yeah, straight up. A tourist can literally come to Jamaica and tell me more about my history, and because I don't know a thing.
Mhm.
How is it for you?
Wow. Okay. Well, well, for my Caribbean history, we learned more than that. Um, we learned about, of course, the natives that were here in Jamaica and the Caribbean, and then we move into, Columbus, colonization, slavery, you know, rebellion, like all of that stuff. Um, we also learned about like the other nations, but it was more so in how they related to our country. For example, the West Indies Federation, we learned about that. And in that, we also learned about the other nations and how they got their independence and, so on and so on. But we learned a lot about Jamaica. Like we went all the way from, as I said, natives to straight to, where we are today. We went through independence, emancipation, uh, um, right. So we learned a lot. We learned about the women's rights, just
Women's
suffrage.
rights in Caribbean history.
In terms of like, yeah, in terms of like, I
Oh,
think it, well, I think so. I think it's called adult suffrage, unless I'm paraphrasing it wrongly. Perhaps I
okay.
am, but I know we learned about people wanting to vote, right?
Okay.
I
I definitely don't
mhm,
remember that in mind at all. By the way, what
mhm.
level did you do Caribbean history? Because I'm
Grade
thinking,
10 and 11 for
oh,
CSEC.
so it wasn't Cape. All right,
No, not Cape.
all right. So definitely hearing the differences between your Caribbean history versus
Right,
mine. Okay.
right. And we also learned about, Manly, how the visions that he had, but some we were until when the JLP and the PNP were, reformed.
That the politics was never brought up in Caribbean history unless we're talking about the history of it. And even so, about the more we hear more about the JLP and the PMP in social studies class versus
hmm
history.
hmm I mean,
Question.
there was a lot of politics in history because it related to how the region, the issues that occurred and so on. So we learned a lot of politics, but it wasn't politics in the way how some people think about it.
All right. So I have a question.
hmm
Who taught you more about your black heritage or the history and the trials and tribulations that we went through as slaves? Is it their CXC course, Caribbean history, or is it social media of today?
It's both. Without CXC, Karen history, I wouldn't have known a lot of what I know now. However, what I learned was from a book that was written from 2010s thereabout. So therefore, having become an adult now, I'm on various social, platforms where people talk about these things. So I've learned a plethora of information online through discussions and my own, in my
Okay.
spare time I read and so on.
Okay. Well, I believe that I'm not even sure how to properly answer this, but essentially, I don't know if it's because now I actually care more
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I've learned more about Black history through social media today compared
Mm-hmm.
to as a child going through high school, because
Mm-hmm.
um, there was nothing in the textbook talking about how Black people were raped of lies. That's incorrect. That's definitely incorrect. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like a little one sentence and then okay, on to the next thing. And then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like now you're realizing how detrimental and serious it really was. Because
Mm-hmm.
even in Jamaica, when it's Black History Month,
Mm-hmm.
what they show on TV is the same thing they show every single year.
Every single right, right. It's true. It's
So,
true.
yeah.
Having become adults and we're on social media, we have learned much more deeper. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
gone deeper, but I will tell you this: what we learn about history, Black history in Jamaica, African Americans wished they learned that because they don't learn. They learn about a drop of that. Okay. A matter of fact, our social studies class teaches us more about Black history than they learn about Black history. Why? Because in America, your education is dependent on the state, and then it also is further dependent on the county that you live in. So the school boards determine what students learn and what the teachers teach. And therefore, a lot of cities, states, people are less educated on certain topics than others. But I would definitely say that our history, or at least my history, did do a good job to teach us a lot of the our heritage and what happened.
All right, so we spoke about the sciences already. I didn't
Mhm.
do chemistry, so I'm not going to go into that. Uh,
I did it,
huh?
and boy, oh boy, mistake, worst mistake of my life.
Doing chemistry?
Ah,
Well, I had no interest in it, so yeah, I definitely skipped that.
ah,
Um,
as you should.
Let me see. Economics, is that a Cape course or is that what I think? Because back in
Home,
my day, I think
home.
it was called home ec. Is that the same thing?
Let me look at the list. Oh, economics. Yeah,
Or is, or,
economics was taught as a subject by itself, so that is in Cape.
oh, okay, so that's the econ, which is done at
Yeah,
Cape level.
econ. Right,
Alright,
econ.
alright, so I'll skip that since I did econ in college versus high school. Alright, so EDPM. I had
Mm-hmm.
the same thoughts about this back then, and I'm shocked to see that it is still there now. I believe that is the most redundant subject ever. Why? Um, I acknowledge that I don't fully understand what that course is about, but to me, it's a typing school, or should I say, a
Mm-hmm.
typing course, and not
Yeah.
for you to type on the computer, but how to use a typewriter, and that is a
Mhm.
dead trade because if I think that course should actually be eliminated because if you're doing information technology, it is a part of the information technology course for you to actually learn how to position your fingers, to learn how to type properly. And
Mhm.
so it's like, all right, how can I put this?
It's redundant.
It's redundant. Not only is it redundant, it's actually detrimental to our economy. I can't
Mhm.
tell you the amount of girls that are out there today that chose to do EDPM versus information technology, and because of that,
Mhm.
they are not computer savvy in any way. I have persons who are my age who don't know how to turn on a computer. They do not
Mm-hmm.
know how to access Microsoft Word. They don't know what Google is. So because of that, the many jobs that are out there that are available in the BPO industry, they don't
Mm-hmm.
qualify for, simply
Qualify for.
because, yeah, simply because they didn't do information technology and they don't know a thing about computer. Because back in high school, persons who normally chose EDPM instead of information technology, they think
Mm-hmm.
like the old people, whereas
Okay.
they are resistant to technology and they think that technology is hard and difficult and EDPM is easier. And now a lot of them are stuck.
So, all right. Well, my little sister did EDPM, and from what I see, it has definitely changed. She knows how to turn on a computer. I mean, she already knew these things, but you know, they're still taught, because at the end of the day, how are you going to get to Microsoft Word if you can't turn on a computer? So she knows how to navigate through the start menu to get to these applications. She knows how to type and how to construct documents, right? I'm an IT nerd, and she was able to. A matter of fact, there's a lot of IT nerds that know how to work a computer, but yet don't know how to use Microsoft Word, right? So I think it depends on like the balance. I don't think EDPM is redundant. I thought so as well, but you see, this is the thing. EDPM is a specialization where it's just focused on you preparing documents. So that's Word, Excel, Publisher, all of those things that are needed in a business. Now, I think the
Wait a
reason why,
minute. Are you
uh-huh,
telling me that in EDPM they're teaching you
yeah,
how to use Publisher?
yes, because homegirl, my little sister, created a birthday card in Publisher. Usually, when I create those things, I use Word, but of course, you can use either of them. But she created it in Publisher, and Microsoft still offers Publisher till this day, right? So it's not anything outdated. So she learned how to prepare documents point blank. And um in IT you also learn how to do that, but because you have to learn other things such as how the computer operates, the inner workings of the computer, the programming, the binary, you don't focus too long on the the document preparation, and thus she knew how to do some things in documents that the average IT student did not, right? But however, I think the reason why those young ladies that you spoke of who are unable to get a job with EDPM on, the resume, I think the reason why is because people have the perception of EDPM which you have, and that is because of how EDPM was taught in the past. Because of how it was taught in the past, these expectations of it still remain, even though it has changed.
Alright, I can definitely see that happening. But as much as you are saying that it has changed, alright, so I understand that because, yeah, you're definitely telling me that it has changed. But being in the position that I have been in the past, we are not seeing it. So, unfortunately, the younger generation is doing better, but unfortunately, the
Mm-hmm.
generation that is already there, that are existing, they're the ones who keep on showing up in front of our faces or showing up for the
Right,
job,
right.
and they
Mm-hmm.
prove themselves to be incompetent. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just further solidifying that thought. All right, so English. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Me first, huh? All right. Well, for English, we learn the usual things, how to write essays, different kinds of essays. We did story writing, descriptive writing, all the different kinds of, all the different styles of writing, rather. We also learned how to critically read, like read a paragraph, try to understand what the author is speaking. What does this mean to you? If you're asked a question regarding it, are you able to pick out what you're being asked? You know,
Hmm.
um, yeah, that's what we learned in English in like grades 9 and 10. Of course, in grades, lower school, you learn homophones, how to structure the sentences, advanced types of sentences, um, parts of speech, how to, enrich your writing.
I definitely agree. I don't really have much to say about English. Or what I've personally seen is that those who succeed in that class, it's dependent on the teacher and how you actually view the subject itself. Uh,
Yes,
uh-huh.
yes, that is completely true because you have teachers that they can be just terrible. Like they can be annoying. Quite frankly, some of them can be a bitch, right?
Uh,
So you can have students who are adept at English and they just don't. They just said, "Sure," because that was me. And then you have students who English is like nightmare, and this
mhm.
teacher could help them turn that nightmare literally into a daydream. But because the teacher doesn't teach well or well enough to cater to every type of student, that student gets left behind.
Yeah, uh, I get that. English was always easy for me, so I don't really have much to say about it. But yeah, that was actually one of my favorite courses back then. Geography, for me, I didn't think much of it. I remember when I was doing it, learning the parishes, learning about different types of soil, different types of stones, and that was all, nice. But when I was doing it in junior high, my thought was when I was thinking about my future is, what am I supposed to do with this? Um, career wise, I really didn't get it because the only thing that came to my mind was National Geographic Explorer or something of that nature. And I'm not interested in any of those jobs. So after I learned about the parishes of Jamaica and the different types of stones, what's what next?
Mm, same. Geography, I did it in grade 9. We learned how, yeah, same stuff. We learned about hurricanes, earthquakes, how soil is, and so on. But I don't remember much from that class. I will be honest, but I know that we learned about like hurricane, earthquake, the history that we have with them, and how it affects us, the farming, and so on.
Home
Mhm.
economics. That class was filled with a lot of girls. What do I remember from
Mhm.
home ec class? You learn how to sew, string needle, and sew on a button. And if the clothes tear, you can do a quick stitch. And that's all I remember. And similarly, I'm like, what am I doing this course for? I don't want to be no tailor. I didn't get
Mhm.
it. I, I didn't get the purpose of it. Um, But I am grateful for it because when my button pop off my work clothes, I don't have to carry it to the tailoring where they're going to charge me $500 just to stitch on a button because I don't know how to, or I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the basic needle and thread in my own home. So it wasn't totally useless. How about you?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Same here. Same here. Um, I learned how to cook. I loved the cooking classes because me love
Wasn't
yam, me love eat. So,
wasn't cooking
hmm
classes separated from home economics?
no, for me, home ec was cooking, sewing,
Oh,
and how to like keep the house looking good, right?
interesting.
Yeah, for me that was home ec. But yes, as I said, but this was the lower school. It was most about how to cook, little bits and pieces of how to like eh, the textile stuff. Um, I didn't do it in upper school, of course. At that time, it was more so food and nutrition, and blah blah blah. But I appreciated home ec a lot because me love nyam, so I learned how to cook like little
Well,
things in the kitchen and so
I
on.
I love to eat, but I don't like to eat my classmates' cooking because when you want to talk about creative cooking, some recipes these people come with.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this up to this day. This girl come to food and nutrition exam, and she decide to go make banana juice.
Oh, okay.
And I'm talking about green banana, not yellow ripe banana that you used to make smoothie. Your green banana that you use when you want boiled food. She used that to make juice. Did she boil it first? No.
Mm-mm.
Cut up cut up the green banana, skin and all, put it in the blender with some other mix up and thing. And I remember the teacher, she looked at her and said, I'm not drinking that. I know,
Mm-mm.
but I know wrong her. You
I
drinking that?
don't. I, I can't. You can't use the green banana. Green
Um,
banana. It,
you know,
no.
no, and I actually think you can, but it's just,
I don't know.
I think it's just one of those vegan, very country, very Rastafarian recipes that's not really the norm. So based on the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we can't trust this source because the teacher asked, "May I get this recipe from?" And I believe she said her father gave it to her. So, but it just not sound safe because
Yeah, that's a very good question.
as far as we know, eating green banana like that is not good. Like you're trying to poison the teacher or something. Like,
A
like,
very good question. So I would have to do some research on that one. I would have to do some research on that one. I won't like to.
because I'm like, I get green banana porridge, and even then it's cooked, not raw. We.
Exactly. So,
Alright.
eh, not so sure on that one.
Alright, so next on the list was, what is industrial technology? I know about IT as information technology, but they have industrial technology. Is that something
Technology.
that you're familiar with?
Technology. All right. Yeah. So we did that IT from as we entered high school. From first form, we were doing that. So industrial technology is, well, as the name suggests, it is industrial. You learn, well, what do I remember learning? Crap, I don't remember learning anything about it, but
So
I
industrial as in,
remember us learning, yeah, industrialization. So I remember us learning about things used in like, when I call it a factory, I guess. We had to get at, We had to do a lot of measurements. We had a T square, things like that. But I don't remember much about it. Honest to God, I don't remember most of it,
Hold on.
but it is surrounding the name.
Is it? Am I thinking of TD?
Yes, it's like TD. It incorporates some of that, some of TD.
So TD is. So it's not technical drawing. All right. So I'm definitely not familiar with
No,
industrial
I
technology then.
wouldn't. No, it is not technical drawing. However, technical drawing, like what it's about, industrial tech involves it. So
All
you
right.
learn how to draw certain stuff.
All right. All right. So let's get to the meat of the matter. I don't know what that course is about. You're trying to explain it to me, and I don't get it. So.
I don't remember it. I don't remember it. So let's just skip over that one. I don't
All right.
remember it, honestly to God.
All right. So let's talk about math. I hate that
Math,
class.
math.
I hate that class so much. I hate it so much with a passion. It's because, let's see, my hatred for math. Let's see, how can I put this? So this is what math class is like to me. The teacher will come into the class, write all of these numbers, stuff, and yada 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 on the board, and
Mm-hmm.
they say 1 plus 1 equals 3, and whatever formula you need to plug in to get that answer. And then probably the first time they do it, I'll be like, oh, and I follow through and I get it, and that's fine. Guess what's the next step? All right, 2 plus 2 equal 2,049,000,049.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, oh, the backside me supposed to find out that.
Like, how do we move from this to that?
Yeah, it's like they do the easy way first, and then not even give you a hard one after as an example to show you how to do it. And then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
go figure out how to do the hard one. And I'm like, lady, sir, you not even know what it asked me to do. I must go do the hard one? Oh, you only show me the formula for the easy one. And their response is,
Mm-hmm.
you need to think, you need to use cognitive thinking. And I'd be sitting there like totally blank, don't even know what the first step is to do. And they're like, we're not gonna spoon feed you. I literally don't know what to do though. So it's just always been a turn off for me. Apart from that, even the examples, whereas I would understand what is being done on the board,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go home and I get the homework and say 1 plus 1 equals 3. And I'll be like, I got it in class, but for the life of me, I don't remember how the hell I got here. You see a bunch of numbers underneath it, but where did 7 come from? Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Where
so
it come from?
so it was just so confusing and not straightforward. So I hate that subject. But as an adult, doing over math classes, I realized that
Mm-hmm.
my learning style was just different, and most teachers did not have the time or the resources to tweak
Mm-hmm.
their math lessons, especially seeing that for one individual math class, there's like 40 or 50 out of us in a crammed in a class, so they really don't have the time.
Nope.
And
Yeah.
like what you said with English, if you don't get it, we suffer, and that's why a lot of us we either have English or math, but really few of us have both.
Mm. Well, for us, math, so like the example that you used where they would teach it easy and then make you do the hard version. We learned the easy, then the hard, and we had to do examples of both of them. Of course, the hard was always hard. That's why it's hard. So while some students could understand and execute the hard, you had students like me now where did I scratch them head really bad because I'm not really skilled with math in that way. Um, so, but math was a headache for me because, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, yes, I learned how to use numbers. Right. So, yeah, we learned about these things, but like at the same time, did we need to do all the extra stuff? The Pythagoras, the triangle, the tangent of the whatever cosine hoo-ha. Did we need
Um,
that?
you know,
No.
yeah, I agree. What we're doing all of that for? I get it that I get math is supposed to be a general subject, but it is not a general subject because look at us as adults.
No.
Basic
Mm-mm.
mathematical things that we're supposed to be able to do, we don't know how to do, and that's because those of us who struggled with math, where they're trying to kill ourselves trying to learn these formulas that are similar but different and all of these things. So it's
Mhm.
like you just feel like you wasted your time or wasted your youth, really.
Yeah. Yeah, like completely. I understand that they taught us these things so that we could develop solving skills. Um, However, if you ask me, I think that, well, this is what I heard. I learned online, well, learned rather, that these super hard, what the hell is this type of equations, these are what help to propel the math scholars to pursuing math further, right? However, what about the average man, the average woman that, you know, doesn't want to pursue math?
Yeah, we
Or,
just get
sorry, the average boy or girl. What about us?
we
I'm
just
saying,
get
like,
turned off
where's our
from it.
coming from? Clearly. And then because we get turned off from it, and just as you said, like, the teachers just say, sure, do this, do that. You're thinking, because no one is like, in some schools and some cases, the teachers just leave you alone. And it's like you feel alone, you're stranded. And that turns off a lot of people from doing math. A lot of people are
Hmm.
scarred from math
Yeah,
completely.
yep. It's kind of like the adult version of what you see on social media, where a parent is standing over their child, 4 plus 7, and the poor child don't know how to add 4 plus 7 together, to the point where they just start crying because they really don't know what to do, and you have this big giant adult over you threatening you with belt if you can't get the answer, and you really don't know how to. The next subject that's on our listing is mechanical engineering technology. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like maths, so that automatically out. Did you do that?
Yep. I didn't do that, but I have friends who did. So, mechanical engineering technology, you do that in, like, um upper school. And once again, that, so what you learn in that class, you would learn the basics in industrial technology, right? So industrial technology is like a combination of um mech tech, as my schoolmates called it, TD, and I think it's called, name again, there's another drawing course, but I think that one was the capability.
Visual
But
arts?
no, not that kind of drawing. Drawing for, like, other purposes. But
Oh,
anyways,
okay.
um
Oh,
in that
I
in
think
that
it's called
course, or
one
something,
C word, a C word.
or CAD, or yeah,
Yes,
like
AutoCAD.
something
Yeah.
like that. Right, AutoCAD. So AutoCAD is like the Cape one, right? So MechTech, you learned how they, they did a lot welding there. They made things. So I just said mechanical tech. So using technology interfusing with mechanical parts and shit.
You know, the funny thing is, if I actually was good in math, I would have definitely taken mechanical engineering because I'm actually a very
Mm.
creative person. So being
Yeah.
doing something with engineering where I'm actually building stuff is definitely something I would have done. But because I know me and the maths are not friends, I just avoided anything that had to do with it as best as I can.
Yeah, I completely understand. Not gonna lie to you. I
Yeah.
do.
Right. Modern languages. Alright, so that to me sounds like a fancy name for saying foreign languages, which is basically Spanish, French, dependent on what high school you go to. Because most of the high schools they just cop out and just only give you Spanish, while the fancy high schools they had the option to learn French and some French and what else?
Right.
No, there was
Spanish
a
and French.
no, there was a third option. I don't remember what it is, but anyways,
Really? Well, in yeah, I don't know if a third.
okay, all right. So what? So how I feel about it? It's a great subject. It's a great move, but however,
Hmm.
back in my era, the proper resources were not available to actually ensure that we did it efficiently or effectively. The reason as to why I say
Hmm.
it, which is also why I never chose that subject, I'm in a Spanish
Hmm.
class, and I have a new Spanish teacher every 3 months. It now go work.
Mm.
It's not going to work because
Yeah,
the because
because different teachers teach
different
differently.
different teaching styles, and the new teacher come don't know where the hell the previous teacher left off. You're telling them that, oh, the last thing we did was
Yeah.
this, and then their approach is like so different, either too hard or they're backtracking on something that we already did. So it's just like, so yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's better now, but I don't know what's going on with that. Why it's so hard for them to find a Spanish tutor. I guess it would have been
Hmm.
a shortage of them, but the amount of Cuban Spanish teachers that I had, and every 3 months, oh, you're having a new Spanish teacher. Why? And you don't understand the impact that you're having on our education while we're not doing that subject or why the passes are not that good. Come on, you can't do that.
Uh-huh. Because students imprint on their teachers and the teachers imprint on their students. So therefore, students and teachers, it's a bond. And especially when, as you said, the new teacher comes in and they teach them not teach the same way. So teacher A, they explain things, they give homework where it's to really reinforce. They play interactive games. Teacher two, no. Come to class. I explain. If you don't understand, well, I will try again. But if you're not understanding, well, that's just on you. Homework in that teacher's case is not, it's not so much to reinforce but more so for like a grade, you know
Mm.
so every teacher she teaches differently, and thus because of that, that really negatively affects many students, and people don't realize this.
Or rather, they don't care. Uh,
Or
uh,
that or that.
Alright, so we can move on to the next one. Music. I felt
Mm.
disappointed because it was definitely not what I thought it would have been. I remember,
Music.
yeah. So I remember going into music class for the first time, and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to learn how to read those music sheets. I'm going to get the opportunity to either play the drums, the keyboard, all of those fancy things.
Instrument.
And for the
Right.
and for the life of me, I can't remember what we learned, but we didn't learn any of those things.
Mhm. Right. Well, for me, yeah, same. I thought we would have done those things, but instead, what we did was we learned about music theory, and we learned how to play the recorder, and we would
Jesus.
play the recorder. Yes, the dreaded,
Oh, what kind?
annoying
Oh, what kind of
recorder.
primary school something this Bobo play recorder? You mean the little plastic flute something them where they sell a bookshop?
Uh,
Jesus.
we had to learn how to play them, and we played them. We also talked about, we had conversations about music, how music was, and how music is. Sir would also
Oh yeah.
rest in peace. He would also teach us, like, we he would also talk to us about how our music, reggae and dancehall, how they came from, where they are now, and the influences that they have on us, and why we sing about certain stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember
So I
now.
love that stuff.
But
It
you
wasn't bad.
had but you had the better one. I remember those dreaded assignments that they gave us every single year for our research on
Mm-hmm.
ska, research on reggae, and
Oh
coming
yeah,
to
that too.
class
Yeah. We had to
listening.
do projects on that too. Oh yes, oh yes.
And
I won't lie about that too.
I found it so boring because it's like I don't have no interest in learning about no ska. It's boring. I don't have any appreciation for it. And every year, research about Bob Marley. Like for example, I literally can't remember anybody else that is associated with reggae apart from Bob Marley. Yes, there are others. I'm very sure that the course covered others, but uh, I can't remember anybody else.
I know. Because there was a focus
Yeah.
on him and his contribution.
Office administration. No, I didn't.
Mm.
I didn't do that one. Did you?
Well, no, but in my school, OA, as we called it, OA was the vocation category. So just like how if you chose IT, you did IT and maybe business. That's how my school did do it. So OA was more so a grouping where you learned how to do EDPM and business.
Okay.
Right.
EDPM and business. Ah, okay.
Right.
All right. How about PE? Well, I obviously did not do PE because I found it to be a waste of my time personally. Furthermore, you're not going to have me switching in PE gear before lunchtime to get hot and sweaty, and then after physical education, there is no adequate or proper resources available for me to clean myself up after, and then I'm supposed to be
Yes.
at school for the rest of the day
Mm.
feeling sticky
Yeah.
and moldy. While granted, I do understand the lack of resources to clean up either afterwards,
Yeah.
because unfortunately, high schoolers are nothing but horny teenagers, and that will lead to
Yes.
a lot of problems. So I get it, but still,
But
no.
I think for PE they could have put PE as like the last class of the day,
They never
so that
do.
we could get stink and moly and go home.
But no, it's always up another
Oh,
morning before lunch. Like,
before lunch or the first thing in the day, because I remember one day I had PE as the first class, the very first class, okay? And so I never bring gears yet, never. But
years.
in when I was in primary school, I used to bring gears and I used to change because when in primary school, PE was everything. You run up and down.
Yeah, PE was fun then, but high school is just like, unless you're actually into sports, then it was fun for you. But for the rest of us, it's like, let's get this over with. You know. Next on the list is physics, which we already talked about when we talked about the sciences. Principles
Mm-hmm.
of accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as much as I hate math, I love accounts. I love accounts because
Okay.
accounts is straightforward. It makes sense. I know why I'm doing all of this to get
Right.
this calculation. So to me, it's logical. So I know that okay, you need
Mm-hmm.
to calculate that. This is a formula, and I really understand what each and every single aspect of that formula means. So to me, that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and plus, yeah, it's always fun when you're learning how to calculate money. So yeah, that class was fun. How about
Mm-hmm.
you?
Accounts for me, well, you know, so true. People who don't like math tend to do much better in accounts. I mean, of course, because accounts is just literally adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. That's literally it. Whereas math now is much more than that. But yeah, accounts wasn't.
I don't know why,
I
but
was doing very.
I don't know why, but I feel a way when you just said that about accounts. It just feels so. Why are you
Productive.
discriminating?
I'm not
Yes,
discriminating, but that's no, but that's the thing. When you compare accounts, no, granted, now accounts is much more than that, meaning the rules of it and the different aspects. However, when you reduce accounts to the simplest terms, and when you reduce math encompasses much more than just basic adding, subtraction, and so on, principles, and throws them in a roller coaster of problem solving. So therefore, that's why math is so much harder. But yeah, accounts takes those four principles and throws it around the world of business and just general life. For me, accounts, I liked it, but there was a teacher that I had that just made me I was like, no, because she wasn't really the best teacher. And the thing about accounts is accounts can be very confusing because of how rigid the rules are. And of course, if you don't follow the rules entirely, balance sheet not no balance. Because at the end of the day, accounts, your things have to balance, and my things them could have never balance because why either leave out this or I never did this. But nevertheless, accounts for me was the same. We learned how to calculate the money the money. We learned how to do profit and loss, even though you learn that in
basic math.
math
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, in basic math, but you learn it in a more advanced way. So for those who want to, start a business or they want to work out certain stuff in life, like for example, depreciation, you know, that's a real life skill that accounts teaches us. So when you want to sell your house or your car, you can estimate, boy, if I bought this then and blah blah blah, is around this I probably can sell the car for reasonably. Or I think my house will worth this in the next XYZ. So accounts for me was Same thing. We learned a lot of real life stuff because, as I said, that is accounts. Accounts is taking the basic principles of math and applying it to every aspect of life.
Next is principles of business. I loved that course, but I also
Mm.
feel that that course was it fell short. Uh, because when we're doing the SBA, when you're supposed to actually do the business, what's it called? The business plan.
Business plan. Yeah.
You are told, well, at least I was told to only do one aspect of the business plan, meaning choose
Mm-hmm.
between production, finance, and what was the third part? I don't remember. And it's like, so I feel like, huh, yeah, I passed the course, but can I open a business? I, I didn't know
Yeah.
what I was supposed
Mm-hmm.
to do. I literally had to manually go out there, call these companies or visit them to find out what it is that I'm supposed to do and X, Y, and Z and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that is really unfortunate because it feels like with the way that Jamaica is trying to go, that course is
Mm-hmm.
so critical in wanting for us to actually go out there and say that we're going to open our own business versus go look at job.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't
Yeah.
think it's pulling its weight really in that department. And I believe
Mm-hmm.
educators are talking about they don't have enough time or lack of resources. And I just
Mm-hmm.
believe that it just needs to be restructured to be more efficient. Take out the fillers and teach us what we really need to learn so that
Mm-hmm.
when we graduate from high school in summer, we're not going to be applying to no dead end call center job.
Yeah, I agree. Um, However, for me, I would say we learned everything that we needed to learn. We learned how to start up the business. We learned the different types of businesses that exist. And as I said, we learned how to start a business because, as I said, we had to do the business plan. And in doing that, the building blocks of entrepreneurship were laid. But I do think that, as you said, the course was more so the theory behind business than actually equipping youngsters with the skill sets to be entrepreneurs. And yeah, I agree with that. But however, if you want that, that's where the course in entrepreneurship comes in, but that you do in Cape. So yes, the course does fall a bit, short.
All right. Let's talk about religious education. I mentioned it earlier before
Mhm.
in the start of our recording, whereas I
Mhm.
said that religious education is actually a critical course in
Mhm.
preventing us from being assholes to each other. Whereas
Yeah.
to limit the discrimination, because we know what the difference between a Muslim versus a Sikh, we understand the difference, the many different classification and sub classifications of Christianity, so that religion can stop being a source of, or can be as
Um.
stop being a source of discomfort, that we're not shunning someone
Mhm.
because of their religion, because we were educated on it and we just understand that this is just the way that they do things. It doesn't make them less than a human being, and we're not going to be running around dragging people's turbans off their head just because we think
Mhm.
it's funny, because we understand that
Right.
that's offensive and we understand why it is. I
Mhm.
was rudely or should I say I was disturbed when I was having a conversation with someone else from a predominant high school, mind you, who said that religious education only taught them about Christianity.
Wow.
Specifically,
Wow.
it was a specific type of Christianity as well. So we're not talking about New
So
Testament. It only taught them
yeah, we
about
know. We
that.
know that school. I know that school. All those
So,
kind of school. Yeah, man, I know that school. I won't lie.
and
I
I
know
was,
that school.
when they said that, I was like so shocked. And I'm like, you're joking, right? And then they're
Mm-hmm.
telling me that, oh, but the school is that based. And I'm like, um, I,
Doesn't matter.
I'm like, it doesn't matter. And then I start to get confused because I was like, but there's a curriculum though. There's an exam. We all do the
Mm-hmm.
same exam.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you do that
Mm-hmm.
course and not know and not do this and that? That doesn't make any sense to me. And I was like, oh, but that's not what our school is focused on. And like, no wonder a lot of you from that school are so messed up because
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately they're the very same ones who are going around putting their fingers in their mouth and rubbing it on. They are the same ones who are running around dragging the turbans off the Muslim's head and think it's funny.
Mm.
So
Right,
that
it's true.
so that's like really sad.
RE. So in RE, we learned about all the religions, or the major ones at least. RE did not have any more of a focus on Christianity than it did on the other religions. I can honestly say that. Um, However, that was RE up until grade 9. Or from what I learned from my friends who did RE, in upper school, there was a Christian kind of focus, because at the end of the day, somebody who studies RE up until grade 11, they can go on to a Bible college because it teaches them that much of the Bible, right? Nevertheless, my RE teaching was very broad, very general. We learned about Islam, Sikhism, Buddhism, Judaism, various religions, and it taught us respect. It taught us understanding of the different groups and their beliefs, and it taught us how to respect them. But of course, some people will always be people and think that, oh, their religion is the one true religion. But generally, Ari did its best to make us aware and understanding.
Right. So next on the list is social studies. Right. So next on the list we have social studies. I remember thinking this class is so political. All we do is talk about politics and court and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
While I excelled in that course, I had no interest in it because I had no interest in politics or law. And
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly, I believe even back then that course should have been teaching us things that we should know as an adult that it doesn't. Like, for example, I think
Mm-hmm.
social studies would actually be the perfect course for us to learn about Jamaican laws, whether, especially when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to what are your rights when you start working, what is the proper protocol when you're interacting with an officer, what to do when you get a speeding ticket, or the police charge you for whatever, whatever. Just don't know some basic stuff that I think as a citizen we should know. And a lot of us, we don't have a clue what it is that we're supposed to do when we need legal help or get into trouble legally. But ask them about what JLP did in 1970 this and they can tell you. But they're clueless otherwise.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hello.
Yeah.
You wait. Sorry. Could you run that back? There was some noise.
I was basically saying that in social studies, I feel that
Right.
it
Social
was just
studies.
politics based, and that
Mm-hmm.
it should have taught us how to what to do legally, whether it is in court or get in trouble with the police or we need help from the police. But all it did was just
Mm-hmm.
focus on the history of politics and government.
Ah, from what I remember in lower school, we learned about geography, some politics. Um, we learned about the the world, like the globe, hell, even the solar system. Space. We learned about that as well, but that was in like primary school. Once we got to high school, lower school, we learned about history. It was more history, little geography, and just a bit of politics as well. PNP, the JLP, and what happened. And then, but yeah, I think social studies. I think as you said, we could have learned about laws, our rights, but for what it did teach us, or at least my generation, I can't complain because boy oh boy, social studies taught me that when rain falls on land, it goes into the sea, and thus you should not go to the beach because that beach is dirty and nasty. But yet, in the US, as soon as a storm occurs, people flood the beaches. The beaches that yesterday looked blue and turquoise that now look brown and black. And yet, they play in it. So clearly, I am very thankful for what social studies did for me. But yeah, it could have definitely taught us about laws and so on. However, my little sister, she learned civics growing up, and I think that is the role that social studies could take, which is learning about your rights, learning about the duties of being, a citizen.
All right. Well, all right. So
Mm-hmm.
the next on the list is technical drawing, although we already talked about that earlier. And then we have theater arts and visual arts. I had no interest in theater arts because in thinking long term to myself, I'm like, I don't want to be a dancer. I don't want to be an actor or a singer. So yeah, it the course itself, it's fun, but long term, it has no benefit to me career wise. So I didn't do it. And with visual arts, I remember in junior high when I was doing visual arts, in getting into my first class, I was so excited because I wished that I had the skill to draw. So doing visual arts, I was like, oh, cool, they're going to teach me how to draw. And I was so disappointed. They didn't. Visual arts class, the way that the course is structured, or at least what I remember from how my tutor taught it, it's catering to persons who already know how to draw. If you can't draw a straight line or a sun to save your life, that course will not help you. They literally don't have any patience to teach you the basics as to, how you draw shapes and this and that. Funny enough, I know how to get dimensions because, they did that thing where it's like, this is how you make the trees. You draw a street. You have the trees on the two sides of the street, and this is how you make the ones at the front, make them big, and make the ones at the back look tiny. I remember that lesson very well. Um, but I don't know how to draw, and I really wished I knew how to, but it just didn't work out for me.
I feel you. I feel you on that. I won't lie. However, I think for how we were taught it, I mean, all of us can draw, just to what extent? Because at the end of the day, you can learn the techniques of how to draw. But as you said, I think visual arts was more so aimed at people who are talented in drawing as opposed to just teaching anyone how to express themselves with art. You get me? So which one is so right? And looking at it now, I don't looking at it now, I don't think I can identify the aim of that course at all. If it was to really just get people to draw or to get people to learn about art and being able to use art as an expression, I don't know because that wasn't made clear. Or if it was, I don't remember. It's been a while because we only did that in grade 7, you know. So
Yeah, I get that. All right. Thanks for listening. This has been Mr. Fox, and I'm looking forward to joining you with another conversation next time. And please remember, you can always follow us on social media. You can just type in oddapart on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And don't forget YouTube. So that is ODDAPART. See you next time.